Hello, Wonderhussy here, lurking around the beautiful Sierra Nevada mountains, thinking about Yosemite. Okay, I'm actually nowhere near Yosemite. I'm in the same mountains, but about 2 hours north of there. Just sort of hanging out in the mountains where it's nice and cool this time of year. But Yosemite has been on my mind because it's been all over the news lately. Okay, you may have seen the stories about that terrible, tragic accident up on Half Dome. A father and his daughter were hiking the iconic Half Dome formation, which, if you know anything about Yosemite or the Sierra, well, you've probably seen photos of Half Dome. It's that super rugged, giant peak that looks like it's been sheared off on one side, which I guess is why they call it Half Dome. And those crazy rock climbers climb up it, and people hike up it as well. And so that's what was going on with this father and his daughter. They got permits and they hiked up Half Dome. And if you know anything about that hike, it's a very challenging hike. Not only is it 8 miles each way to get to the top, but the last part of it is on like a sheer granite face. And so to get up it, most regular folk, I mean, yeah, there's the climbers over on the sheared off side that are just, shimmying up on their ropes and carabiners. But most regular hikers have to ascend these metal cables that the Park Service sort of attached to the granite face of Half Dome. And so to get up that last little part, you have to kind of pull yourself up these really sketchy cables. Anyway, long story short, unfortunately, this guy that was hiking with his daughter, it started raining, the granite got really slick, and his daughter ended up slipping and falling to her death right in front of her dad. Okay, can you imagine how horrifying that would be and how helpless you would feel to see your daughter literally slip right in front of your eyes, just out of your reach, and there's nothing you could do to help her? Absolutely horrifying. I guess he watched her slip off of this, it's like a 45-degree angle slope, and she kind of fell off down onto this ledge, and he saw that she got stopped on the ledge, so he was hoping she was just knocked unconscious, but there was no way for him to get down there safely. And so somebody called 911, and they were waiting for the rescue people to come. And meanwhile, apparently the father was like calling to the daughter, I'm here, I'm not giving up on you, hang in there. And he was, I'm sure the dad was going through all kinds of crazy stuff in his head, but he managed to keep it together for his daughter's sake. Unfortunately, by the time the search and rescue folks did get up there and managed to descend to where, her body was huddled, she had already passed away. Terrible story, and understandably, the dad is pretty upset with the Park Service. He can't understand how the U.S. National Park Service could allow such a sketchy thing as these cables to exist in a taxpayer-funded national park. Okay, again, these cables are super duper sketchy. This granite face is at a pretty steep incline. It's worn really slick from the thousands and thousands of hikers that have gone up it. And so when it rains, it does get super duper slippery, and it can be very treacherous. In fact, this guy's daughter was hardly the first person to die up there. There have been, multiple other fatalities up there in just the last few years. And so, yeah, it is a pretty dangerous thing. And so I get why the dad is upset with the Park Service and, basically demanding that they close this down or do something. Well, I guess it's kind of a hot button topic. It's been going around the outdoor community. And so I was reading I think it was Outside magazine, interviewed some of the rock climbers, like that guy Alex Honnold, the guy who free soloed Half Dome, which means he climbed up the sheared off face of Half Dome without any ropes at all. Anyway, they interviewed him and some other climbers, and the consensus was, or at least Alex Honnold seemed to think, no, man, you can't close this down. This is something that means a lot to a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of people that when they do that Half Dome hike, even regular mortals like us, not like Alex Honnold, just getting up there is such a feeling of personal accomplishment that in his opinion, it really wouldn't be worth it to take those cables down. Sometimes you just have to accept a certain level of risk. I mean, when you're in the mountains, This isn't Disneyland, okay? Not only might you slip and fall, but there's also, you could get hit by lightning, you could get attacked by a bear, you could be bit by a rattlesnake. The wilderness just isn't safe. That being said, I can totally understand why this father would be crusading to get these cables shut down. I mean, even though it's not going to bring his daughter back to life, it might prevent future hikers from being seriously injured or dying. So I understand why he wants to get that route shut down. And I don't know, part of me sort of agrees with him. Like, it's pretty easy to get a permit to hike up Half Dome. I don't know, they issue a certain number of permits per day because they don't want it to get too congested. Like that section where you have to pull yourself up by the cables is very narrow. There's maybe room for 2 people to pass side by side, but you have a death grip on these cables, and ideally you want to keep a hand on both sides, so you don't really want to have to let go of one side to let somebody pass you. And so they don't issue that many permits per day to try to keep the congestion down, but I don't know, they still give out something like 50 a day during the high season, and I think during the off season, you don't need a permit at all. So maybe it should be a little bit more difficult to hike Half Dome so that, average folk like you and me don't think, oh, well, hiking, I've hiked plenty in my day, I could do Half Dome. Maybe make it a little bit more difficult, a few more hurdles to overcome before you can try it. But do I think they should close it down altogether? Well, no, I don't. And I'm kind of afraid that's probably what's going to happen, because this guy is really, well, I was going to say raising a lot of ruckus, but that kind of belittles his situation. I mean, his daughter died. I get it. He's getting a lot of media attention, okay? Let's just say that. So to be honest, the way things have been going lately in this country, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they do take down the cables and they do shut down Half Dome to all but the most intrepid, or some might say insane, climbers. Apologies to Alex Honnold, but I do kind of think anyone who would climb Half Dome without ropes is at least a little bit bonkers. But then here's me hiking around the Sierra in flip-flops, so who am I to talk? Anyway, I'm not gonna lie, part of me sort of thought, oh gosh, I better get up there and hike Half Dome and make a video before it's too late. But guess what? I actually already did hike Half Dome once, and I did make a video. And if you've been following my channel for a while, well, you're probably wondering, well, gee, Wonderhussy, I never saw that video of you hiking Half Dome. Where is it? Well, the problem is I shot it. It was one of the first videos I ever shot back in 2016 when I first started my channel. And at that time, I was still working as an artistic nude model. Yes, those of you who've been following me know that I worked for many years as a nudie model. But the arty kind, okay? I was always dragging photographers out into the desert and up into the mountains to pose on these crazy rock formations and trees. And so one time this photographer friend of mine invited me to hike Half Dome, and he brought his camera and he took all these, I think, really beautiful and tasteful nude photos of me along the way. And so I did shoot a video of the experience, but I included a lot of the nude photos in the video, and so I couldn't post it on YouTube. It's been languishing on my Vimeo channel all these years. So yeah, you can go over to my Vimeo channel and check it out there, but to be honest, the production values aren't very good, and part of me does think maybe I should hike Half Dome again, just so I could make a better video of it. But then the other part of me goes, hell no, that was one of the most physically demanding experiences of my life. And again, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I'm pretty physically active. I've done a number of very challenging hikes. I mean, I hiked the Mount Whitney summit in a day. I've hiked down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon and back up in a day. And it's not like I'm like super afraid of heights. I did the notoriously sketchy Angels Landing hike in Zion National Park without a problem. But man, I'm here to tell you that Half Dome had them all beat 100%. That was, without question, the most difficult hike I've ever done. And so I did it with this guy, this photographer that was a friend of mine. And it was an interesting story. He had attempted to summit Half Dome twice, but he had recently lost a bunch of weight. I think he lost over 100 pounds, something like 150 pounds, the old-fashioned way, just through diet and exercise. He didn't have any surgery, he didn't take any Ozempic, anything like that. This is way before Ozempic. And so he was really proud of himself and his newfound svelte figure, and so he wanted to try Half Dome again and see if he could do it this time. And he did! We made it! All the way to the top of that amazing formation with that incredible view. And yes, we did, both of us, drop trow and shoot nudies at the top. Of course, he shot a nudie of me because I was the one who was a model, but then he also took his clothes off and had me take a picture of him because it was such a feeling of accomplishment for him to have been able to make it up there. You know, remember, this was the third time he had to try. He just lost all that weight. It was tough. I mean, we got up super early. I think we hit the trail like 7 a.m. It's 8 miles each way, okay? You're hiking uphill 8 miles, and then you gotta climb up these crazy steel cables to get to the top of this formation. Well, we did it, and he was really proud of that, and so he had me take a nudie of him, and I was happy to do so because I was really proud of him too. You know, it's no easy feat to hike 8 miles up the side of a mountain and then clamber up these very sketchy steel cables. And I guess I should kind of explain better what these things are. In my video, I didn't really shoot a whole lot of the cables part because I was focused on, well, my hands were in a death grip on the cables because, you know, say what you will about me, hiking around in flip-flops, doing this, doing that. I don't want to die. I'm not as crazy as I probably look on YouTube. And so I did my research before we did this hike. And I read online that, you know, even when you get to the, you know, you do the whole hike and you get to the base of the final push where you have to climb up those cables, if there's any clouds in the sky at all, you're supposed to turn around and not do it. Because clouds mean there could be a rainstorm or a thunderstorm. And that's another very significant danger at the top of Half Dome. If a lightning bolt hits Half Dome, the whole thing becomes electrified. And gosh, that actually happened, I think, back in 1985. There was a lightning storm and lightning hit the top of the mountain. And all these hikers had taken shelter, and there's kind of like this little, well, there's this overhang where me and my friend posed for our nudies. Well, underneath that, there's kind of like this little cave. And so they had gone into the cave to try to hide from the storm. And unfortunately, oh gosh, I can't remember, at least one of the hikers was electrocuted and died. So it's not just slipping and falling that you have to worry about. There's a lot of things you have to worry about. It's a serious hike, and I took it very seriously when my friend invited me, and I did all the research, and, well, I did the hike in flip-flops. And I know that sounds crazy and like, oh my God, what an idiot. Well, no, the whole trail up there is super straightforward. You're walking along a very broad, flat trail for most of it, and then there's a lot of stair climbing, but it's all very straightforward. In fact, I ran into a girl on the trail on that hike who was doing it barefoot, okay? So it's not like I'm a total badass. It was just easier for me because I really dislike wearing shoes. I have long toes, blah, blah, blah. It's a long, boring story. I hate shoes. I brought a pair of tennis shoes with me tied to the back of my pack just in case the terrain became such that I needed them. But it never did. Even, or I should say especially, when we got to the cables section. So my friend and I, you know, hiking all morning. We got up to the cables probably around, I don't know, 1 in the afternoon. And sure enough, there were clouds in the sky. And I'm a wuss. Or maybe I'm not a wuss. Maybe I'm sensible. I was like, oh, I don't know, Alec. His name's Alec. I don't know, Alec. I don't think we should try to go up the last part. We could get hit by lightning, blah, blah. Oh, man, he was so driven and so committed because of his personal weight loss journey and his whole backstory. He really wanted to push on and do it, and so we did. And I was very lucky because that's exactly what happened to that father and his daughter. It wasn't lightning, but it started raining on him. And so the granite face gets really slick when it's wet. Remember, I already told you, it's worn smooth by all the thousands of feet that have hiked up it. And incidentally, I didn't do the cables part in flip-flops, but I didn't wear my tennies either because it was so slick and slippery. I felt that doing it barefoot would be best. Okay, maybe I was just influenced by that barefoot hiking chick I saw, but I just sort of felt like it was much grippier with my bare feet and my toes, and I could just get a better purchase if that makes any sense. And lucky for me, it worked. I was able to climb up that very slippery face, do my nudies at the top, hang out very nervously for about 10 minutes. And the whole time we were up there, my poor friend was trying to enjoy his time at the top of the world. And I was like, I don't know. I think we should head down. These clouds are coming closer. And as a matter of fact, it did rain on us a little bit after we finally descended safely to below the cables. Unfortunately, that's not what happened with this guy and his daughter. It started raining while they were at the top, and the granite got very, very slippery. And so, of course, once it started raining, they were like, well, we better get down off of here. This is getting dangerous. But everybody else on top of Half Dome at that time had the same thought. And so those cables, it's like a bottleneck. They get real congested. And I guess the guy and his daughter were supposed to have been pretty experienced hikers, but they didn't want to be rude or unsafe and elbow people aside. Technically, you can pass other people, but again, they have to let go of one side in order for you to pass them. And it's a pretty sketchy scenario. Apparently, Alex Honnold said when he climbs Half Dome, remember, he climbs up the sheer face of it, but then when he gets to the top, he has to go back down like everybody else. And so he goes down the cables, but he goes down the outside of them, okay? So he's not walking between the cables, holding both sides. He's just walking along one side, letting himself down. That's Alex Honnold. Most mere mortals wouldn't dream of trying something like that. I know I certainly wouldn't. And so neither did this guy and his daughter. And so I guess I'm not sure what exactly happened, but they were trying to go down. They were being held up because there were so many people. Something happened. His daughter made a remark to him about the soles of her hiking shoes being kind of slippery. And the next thing you know, she did. She slipped and ended up falling to her death. Which, again, what a horrible thing for a father to have to watch, let alone all the other hikers that were up there. Okay, remember, there was a bunch of other people trying to descend these cables. When it happened, they all saw it. In fact, from what I read, some of the other hikers immediately got down and started praying with the father, and everybody was very supportive. But, oh my God, talk about PTSD. What a horrible experience for everyone involved. Again, I was extraordinarily lucky that didn't happen to me. I was going to say maybe I did make some decisions that were smart. We did the hike after Labor Day. I think it was September 22nd or somewhere around there that we did the hike, so it was way less crowded. But that wasn't a conscious decision on my part. I just did it because my friend invited me, and that was the only day he was able to get permits. But I would say if you did want to hike Half Dome, there are certain things you can do to make it safer, or as safe as possible. One, set out super duper duper early in the morning, earlier than us. We didn't set out till 7 a.m. I'd recommend setting out as early as you can, 4 a.m. even, just to make sure that you get up there as early as possible, because in the Sierra, these afternoon thunderstorms roll in the summertime, and they usually come in the afternoon, so it's pretty key to get to the summit and get back down off the summit before the storms roll in. So one thing you can do is set out early. Another thing you can do is try and do it when there's not so many people up there, so after Labor Day, after the summer crowds are gone. But neither one of those things were conscious decisions on my part. I was actually just really lucky. But as lucky as I was, it was still, like I said, an extremely physically challenging day. So, yeah, this whole story's been in the news about Half Dome, and it did get me thinking that, oh, gee, I should do that hike again so I could make a better video, and one that I could show on YouTube this time. But, like I said, it was extremely strenuous, and if I'm being perfectly honest, I'm too lazy to do it again. That was an ass kicker. A. B. It was also terrifying. Okay, I'm always going on and on about, I ain't scared of anything. Well, I was definitely scared on that hike. I know it probably sounds like I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, but again, these cables are sort of threaded through these steel support posts. I guess they drilled holes in the granite, and then they placed these metal poles in them, but they're just sort of wobbling, and the poles are not cemented in, because I think they take the poles out every October. I think the cables are only up from April to October, the high season. You're still free to try and summit Half Dome outside of that time. You just won't have any cables to help you. Anyway, they're loose in their holes because of that, because they have to be removable. So there's these wobbly ass poles and these braided steel cables threaded through them. And then between the poles, they laid these really rickety 2x4s. I mean, these very weathered 2x4s, just sort of set across, balanced on the poles, so that you kind of have some kind of foothold. And the poles are spaced pretty far apart. I want to say, it's been 8 years since I did the hike, but I think these poles are probably at least 4 feet apart, maybe 5 feet. So it's not like you can just go pole to pole, like step from 2x4 to 2x4. A lot of that part of the hike, you're gripping, and I mean death gripping, these steel cables that are the only thing preventing you from falling down into the void, which unfortunately is what happens in some instances. And I remember how literally terrified I was gripping those things, and I was glad I was barefoot because my toes were gripped into the ground as much as possible. My hands were just clinging to those cables. I could not get down fast enough. And so none of that is really anything I want to be doing again anytime soon. I know, you can call me a big old wuss right about now. And guess what? I don't care, because I'm alive and I want to stay this way as long as possible. Now, of course, tens or maybe even hundreds of people do successfully summit Half Dome every single day, well, at least between May and October. And I'm sure there's plenty of wackos who manage to summit it in the off season as well. So maybe I am exaggerating the dangerousness of that hike just a little bit, but not really. And if you've been watching my channel, you know I'm not one to make things seem more dangerous than they are, I usually feel like, nanny state government trying to keep us from doing stuff. But that was a dangerous hike, and so, golly, I wouldn't be surprised if they do shut it down, and I hope they don't, because I don't know, man. I feel like that's what's lacking in our modern lives, is that element of danger. Everything in our lives nowadays is so safe. We turn on the tap, it's safe drinking water for the most part. We drive in these cars that have all these safety features. We fly on airplanes that are super safe. There's really not much danger left in human existence. And so I think that's why people really value doing a hike like that Half Dome cables thing, because it makes you feel alive. I'm sure there's a lot of Bay Area tech guys who spend their lives working in cubicles or hunched over computers that, they go up and do stuff like that because it's one thing that finally makes them feel like a living human being. And so taking that opportunity away from people, I feel like, would be a huge mistake. I don't know. What do you think? Most people watching this video probably have no intention of ever hiking to the top of Half Dome. And so watching some idiot's video is the closest you're going to get. And so that being said, I'm going to go ahead and show you the video I shot for my Vimeo channel, only I'm going to take out the dirty parts. And again, I would quibble with the word dirty. They were artistic pictures, but if you want to see the full director's cut, go over to my Vimeo channel. But right here, right now, I'm just going to show you the sanitized version. And again, apologies that my production values weren't better, but I had literally just started my YouTube channel, I'm not even kidding, a week before. So I did the best I could, and I hope you enjoy this vintage Wonderhussy production about my hike to the top of Half Dome. Wonderhussy here. Today I'm at Yosemite. I'm about to do one of the gnarliest hikes known to mankind, and that is Half Dome. My friend and I got permits yesterday, and we got up at 6 in the morning. It was still dark here in the forest at our campsite. Got dressed and set off on the trail. We're here at the bottom. My friend went to the bathroom to do his daily duty, and I just saw him come out, so it looks like we're off. Okay, so I've hiked about a mile and a half-ish, I would guess, up to Vernal Falls. And of course, I had to stop at Vernal Falls to do some nudies because my friend that I'm hiking with is a photographer, and he was gracious enough to oblige me. We snuck off the trail and did a few at the bottom of the falls. Anyways, I don't know if you can see behind me the trail coming up here. It's real steep and windy. It's like climbing a staircase. But so far I've done it, as always, in my trusty flip-flops. I did bring tennis shoes with me though for later on the hike. I'm pretty sure I'm going to need them up there. But for now, hey, everything's great, and I haven't eaten or drank any calories yet. So might have to have a snack. This is Nevada Falls. I don't know how many miles I've gone, 2, 3 maybe. I did stop and have a little snack, some jerky, but I still feel good. I'm still wearing my flip-flops. So I mean, the trail has been very easy so far. I don't know. I guess I should also add that it's late September. And I set off at the trailhead at like 7 a.m. I don't know what time it is now, but it's still pretty early. So that's the info, and I'm going to keep hiking. All right, I think I'm about halfway up now, or so I'm told by my hiking companion and people we just talked to. I don't know. Anyways, I still feel great. My feet feel wonderful. The trail's very easy technically. It's just a sandy path for most of it. You do have to walk up some granite kind of like steps that are a little sharp, and the ground is a little uneven, but it's nothing so far, so. Close to the top. Once you get right to the foot of Half Dome, there's these cables that you have to hang onto to get up. But before you get there, you gotta climb these steep granite stairs all the way up this friggin' mountain. But what a view, huh? Isn't that amazing? I stopped and took as many nudies as I could along the way, but it's a pretty popular trail, so I wasn't able to get as many as I would have liked. And to be perfectly honest, I'd prefer to just be doing this hike naked. It's a beautiful day. If I could at least take my top off, it'd be nice. My are getting sweaty, such as they are. But, you know, if Eve hadn't eaten that pesky apple, and if so many people didn't believe that story, I'd be able to take my shirt off. Anyways, I'll catch up with you in a bit. Okay, I finally made it to the last part of the hike. I gotta go up this. Well, it's cables basically bolted on this sheer face of this rock that you have to climb all the way to the top of. Looks pretty burly. So to prepare for it, I really don't want to wear my shoes. I hate wearing shoes, so I'm just gonna go barefoot. Because I saw a chick earlier doing the whole hike barefoot, so I'm assuming it can be done. But I do have my tennies with me just in case here on my bag, so we'll see. I made it. I climbed all the way up this gnarly ass. These cables are no joke. Dude, that was way scarier than I expected. The rest of the hike was a piece of cake, pretty much. But that, sorry for the wind, was really intense and scary. And look at this. Rain is coming in, and it's going to make the rock face slick. So it's really going to be hard to go down. I'm trying to get my friend to hurry up here and not take too much time. But he wants to, I mean, understandably, he wants to enjoy his time at the top. But at the same time, I'm like, that doesn't look good. Let's get the down. I mean, when you see some parts where you're pulling yourself up by these cables, it's pretty much sheer vertical. There's no footholds. I mean, I did it barefoot, which I feel was the best way to do it because my feet were able, I don't know, it's grippier to be barefoot than to be wearing shoes. I would never have wanted to do it wearing my tennis shoes because they don't have very good tread. If you had some kind of hiking shoes or whatever, climbing shoes that were real grippy, yeah, that's great. I didn't have that though, so. Anyways, I'm here at the top now. Woo! There's this kind of like peninsula off the side called the diving board, where if you go stand out there and have your picture taken by somebody up there, it looks like you're floating in this void. So I'm gonna go do that and get the fuck back down. But it's pretty cool. I'm on top of the world. This was the route we had to climb up to get to the top of Half Dome. Now that I'm going to start my descent, I can kind of show you a little bit of it. And this is an easy portion of it. Once it goes over that ledge there, it's pretty steep. It's almost vertical. Then you get up top here and it's, you know, you can walk around, but it's still no cakewalk. Look at this. Danger, thunderstorms. Well, guess what's rolling in? Bam, a storm. We got to get down now. I made it down those burly cables. That was, without question, the most physically challenging thing I've ever done, I think. I mean, it was just really sketchy and frankly scary, man. I mean, I have brass balls, but even my brass balls got a little bit of tarnish on them from that. That was intense. In fact, I'm astounded that the U.S. Park Service lets people do that, because you know, you go to like Italy and they let you climb up the Leaning Tower of Pisa or whatever, and if you fall off, you fall off. Here in the U.S., we're so litigious that I'm really astonished that they allow people to do that, because it was pretty dangerous. But anyways, we made it down, and now we're hiking back to camp. We're camped down in the valley at the Upper Pines campground, one of the campgrounds down there where all the stuff is, and looking forward to beating up a glass of wine and a big old tri-tip steak that my friend Alec is gonna grill on the campfire. So just pretty much hauling ass down the mountain. But what a great hike, man. This is without question in my top 5 hikes I've ever done. Would I do it again? Those cables, man, I don't know. But it was a 5-star experience, thumbs up. All right, finally made it to the bottom of this trail. It took much longer than anticipated. It's probably 9 o'clock at night now. We left at 7 in the morning, so 14 hours.
It's 9:20.
Yeah, and we're only at the bottom of it. We still have to walk like another mile back to our camp, so. Advice for future hikers. Well, my flip-flops were just fine. I wore them the whole way. I would recommend, I would have started a little bit earlier, I guess. I don't like hiking in the dark. It makes, I don't know, it's kind of boring in the dark because you couldn't see anything, and it made it that much more treacherous. But I don't know, it was a great hike. I think I burned about 140 billion calories. Unfortunately, we're too tired to cook any food now, so we're just going to go back and pass out. But it should be a good night's sleep. Yay, Half Dome. Woo! Knocked that one off the list. Ching! How'd you like that? Remember back in the day, Virginia Slims had that ad campaign? You've come a long way, baby. Well, when I watch my old videos, that's what I think to myself. I've come a long way, baby.